I'm just going to make three quick points, and then we can get into the discussion. As someone who has spent many years working with many of my colleagues, many of whom are in the room, trying to forge a bipartisan approach to solving this complicated and contentious problem, let me start by saying that we once thought that the Republican Party was divided on immigration, but that is no longer true. We didn't leave bipartisanship, the GOP did. In the last vote, a bill that was designed to get 30 Republican senators to vote for it got 12. A House caucus Republican vote a couple of days before that, 23 of the 114 House Republicans versus 114 voted for it. That means that of the 250 elected Republicans in Congress, that 35 would be prepared to support a bill designed to get Republican support, drafted by the White House. Pretty remarkable. So what has happened is that what was once a divided party has become, in my view, increasingly a nativist party. It gives me no joy to say this, because we're only going to solve this problem when there are a sufficient number of Republicans to have backbone, the way guys like John McCain and Lindsey Graham used to have on this issue. So now you see the candidates. I mean, you know, we worked with Rudy Giuliani, and he was the most pro-immigrant politician in the country, not Republican, most pro-immigrant politician in the country. And to watch his performances in these debates is disgraceful. It's disgraceful. How he's going to accept Pete Wilson's endorsement one day and then try to run back to the center in the general election if he gets nominated, I don't know how he does it. Any smart Democratic operative will just have a photo of him shaking hands with Pete Wilson and send it to Spanish-speaking voters. So the Republican Party is now in the clutches. You know, it's remarkable. It's a remarkable development. What happened this spring, in large part, was a Republican Party that used to view the anti-immigrant forces as marginal. I mean, remember that the anti-immigrant forces ran Pat Buchanan in 2000 against George W. Bush. And they gravitated to the Reform Party, essentially took it over from Ross Perot as a way to try to get some traction because they thought the Republican Party would never embrace them. And what happened this spring is that they're in bed together, a full embrace of each other. Remarkable. When Tom Tancredo says they're out Tancredoing Tancredo, that says it all. And he's right. So what else doesn't, the second point is that what the GOP doesn't get, and this will be on display in the forum that Univision is sponsoring. It's remarkable because they have their I'm sure their handlers are saying, okay, all you have to do is say you're for legal immigration, and since Hispanic voters who vote are legal, they will get it. And this is how stupid they are about it. See, this is what people don't get about the fastest growing group of new voters in this country. If you've worked with immigrants the way we have for many, many years, what you understand is that there's a distinction between legal and illegal in a family doesn't count. Because you have citizen members, you have permanent resident members, and you have undocumented members. So when you're talking about, I'm for the citizens sitting on one side of the kitchen table, but I want to deport the people sitting across the table from them, that's a family issue. You're saying my hard-working family members should be expelled from the United States. You wonder why it's a defining issue? And this is what some pollsters don't get. So they say, well, look, Hispanics don't seem to register that this is, you know, the top issue. It's in the same way when you ask African Americans, civil rights is not the top issue, but it's the defining issue for African American voters. You can't get to African American voters unless you're right on civil rights. And increasingly, you're not going to be able to get to Spanish-dominant Latino voters unless you're right on immigration. Who cares what your position is on small business formation if you want to deport my brother? So that's going to be, this is the, and you know, look, I get it. They don't really get the issue. They figure, okay, we got to speak to the base because in Iowa, obviously there's some pop to this issue, but we're going to go to this forum, and boy, are we going to, but we have to be careful because the anti-immigrant forces are going to be watching. I can't wait to see the jiu-jitsu on this. And I have to say, you know, I suspect there'll be more of them trying to have their Sister Soldier moment than anything. We're not going to pander to these Latinos, and we'll show them. boy, am I going to have a front row seat. And then the third point I want to make is about Democrats. Democrats are not sure-footed on this issue yet. And I make some distinction between, quite frankly, Senate Democrats and House Democrats. Senate Democrats have gone to war in 2006 and 2007 for comprehensive immigration reform. A remarkable thing on an issue that is so difficult, that is so contentious. Twice it's been fought, once from the minority, once from the majority. You got to give Harry Reid and Ted Kennedy, Ken Salazar, Bob Menendez, these guys, lots of credit. And up until recently, you had to give credit to the brave Republican reformers who seem to have enough backbone to stand up and say we should do this. Now, in the House, you obviously see candidates and members struggling with this. Not Speaker Pelosi, she gets this issue. But you see them struggling with it. Here's my prediction. I'm optimistic about House Democrats and where I think it's going to end up. Because they don't get it so well, they're trying to figure out, well, how do we deal with swing voters who seem really worked up about the problem and Latino voters for whom it's a defining issue? Is there some way that we can deal with both? To me, I've been working on this issue 25 years, this is not difficult. This is not difficult. I get that people don't get it yet, but from my point of view, if Democrats are smart, okay, not like Frances Busby who said you should vote even if you're not legal, right? Not like Nikki Tsongas who said to the Boston Herald 5 days before the election when she's under attack on illegal immigration, oh yes, and we should give driver's licenses. I mean, I'm not talking about boneheaded candidates who do stupid things. If you get it right, what you are for is enforcement plus. You're for dealing with the border and employers and making sure that we know who's here. That is a position that is supported by 2/3 of the American people in every independent poll, virtually every independent poll done by media organizations in the last few years. We have the summary on our website. It's remarkable. They ask it a whole bunch of different ways. This is not a new topic. Democrats don't have to be scared of saying, you know what, we're not going to deport 12 million people. Because you know what they're going to get is a lot of people saying that's right. Not from Republican hawks who want to drive the party over the political cliff. Of course you're not going to appeal to those people. But independents are upset about the fact that politicians aren't solving the problem more than they're upset about these brown people living in their country. That's my bet. That's my bet. So I think Democrats need to lean into this issue, need to say, of course we want to crack down at the border and on employers, and we want to make sure that we deal realistically with the folks who are here. If they do that over time, you know what I think is going to happen? Here's my final prediction, is that this is going to be a wedge issue that works for Democrats against Republicans. Will it take 2 or 3 election cycles? Maybe. But I look forward to the day when a Republican says, how do we sue for peace? Because this is killing us with independents, and it's killing us with Latinos. And we've got to take this issue off the table, and if we do, maybe we can get back to other issues that are better for us. I don't know when it's going to happen, but mark my words, I think it will. Thanks.